ho, ho, ho.
Hey guys, I'm Kimberly Jolly from Fat Quarter Shop, and it's just like Christmas morning today. We're wrapping up our finishing on all the Trimmings 2021 Christmas in July at Fat Quarter Shop, which is completely free. Download your final pattern in the description box. We've added a special touch this year with our cross stitch. So you'll want to subscribe to this channel for quilting and subscribe to Fat Quarter Shop Floss Tube for our cross stitch. Let's get started. We've made it to week 5, so let's start by cutting our sashing. On this quilt, you're gonna have 5 sashings, and because of how we piece the rows, you don't even have to add borders. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut 5 2-inch strips from this. Now you subcut them down, but I'm actually not gonna subcut them down because I'm gonna show you how I do my borders and my sashing, where I keep them longer and cut them down later. I'm gonna move this fabric because this is our binding. Now for your binding, we'll talk about that in a second. So for your background, I actually need my fold at the bottom. I have this nice and ironed, and I'm gonna put the fold on one of the lines on my ruler so that I know when I open this fabric, it will be straight. So I've got this line on it. I'm going to make sure I cut through both layers, and then I'm going to carefully rotate this so that it stays nice and steady, and we're going to cut 5 strips that are 2 inches wide. So to do that, I'm actually going to cut at the 6, the 4, and the 2. Move this slightly, and then cut 2 more strips at 4 inches. Cut the 4-inch first. This is all left over, so you'll have plenty if you need to recut something. We always do extras in our kits for that reason. Now when I open these strips, this right here should not be wavy. So you shouldn't be able to tell where this is. If you open this and it's wavy, then you probably want to recut because this was not cut perpendicular to here. So we've got these 5. I'm going to set them aside and show you how I do those in a second. For your binding, this is really a lot of personal preference. When we're doing our binding, we're going to cut 5 2.5 by width of strips, just like we did with our background. It's just a different width, making sure that that fold is at the bottom. And we have a playlist for all of our binding tutorials if you want to check that out. Now we'll move to assembly. So now, because I have not cut my strips down, I'm going to show you the Kimberly way. And the way I do that is I open my strip, get it nice and flat. So you see this little bump, you want to have that flat. I'm going to put it against a line on my ruler so that I make sure it's nice and straight all the way across. And at the 33.5 mark, I'm going to put a pin. And at the 0 mark, I'm going to put a pin. Then I'm going to fold this in half, matching my pins, and put a pin right here in the center. And we're going to do that on all 5. Now this you could chop off. I usually just leave it there. And I do it this way in case my fabric moves. I just get better results. And this is how I do side borders, top and bottom borders, sashing, anything like this. And now we can attach all of our sashing to all of the rows we have made in week 1 through 4. Start sewing outside on the strip that's past your actual row and stitch onto your row. After I've stitched to where I've gotten to my row, I'm going to back stitch off the row and then keep going. Now my sashing is on the top and you'll see that it starts to bow, but because it's on top, we'll pull it. So take a pin out, and at your next pin, pull your finger back, and it makes it straight, and it's gonna go on there nicely. So you just keep this finger down the whole time. When you get to the end, go past your actual row, back stitch, and that way when we trim off, you've got some extra stitches here. Do the same thing on all of your rows. So this next part, we're just going to set the seam all the way across the sashing, just like we did on all of our blocks. It's going to lock in those seams. Press toward your sashing. So I'm going to finger press here. And we'll do all of the rows exactly like this. From here, I'm just going to use a small ruler, line up one of the lines on my Creative Grids ruler and trim. And now your edge is really nice. And anytime I'm doing something that's going to go on the outside of the quilt, I do backstitch. Most people do not, but I do. So if I'm adding an outer border or anything like that, I will backstitch. And I'm just going to do the same technique, and you can even do it from the back if you want. And now that I have that done, I'm going to lay everything back out in order with the sashing at the top. So row 1, row 2, row 3, and row 4. And to join them, take the top of the tree, fold it over, find the center, take the bottom of the ribbon row, find the center, match them, pin on each side. But when I'm sewing this together, I'm going to sew with the sashing on top and the seams, all these seams on the bottom. So to pin it, I'm going to turn it around and do the same thing here. And you can see right here, these little seams kind of flipped open. You can either fix those or leave those. They're supposed to stay flat. Now here, the same thing. Just pull it, pin kind of in the center, and then it'll all smooth out. And we'll sew all of this together using all of the same techniques I just taught you, and come back and the quilt top will be complete. And that's a gift wrap on the All the Trimmings Sew Along at Fat Quarter Shop. Definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can find more free tutorials, and join me every Friday for my weekly live streams. See you there.